This video is sponsored by Keeps. More on them later. I frequently worry about getting old. I haven't got too much happening right now, so at the moment my plate is full of the relentless march of time and how 2011 was 10 years ago, which just tells me that time is moving way too fast and I want off this wild ride! I remember when the Nintendo 3DS was this new, shiny, deeply innovative upgrade to their regular DS where Nintendo could bring together some nifty features with upgraded graphical output to blur the line between what games should look like on a console and a portable handheld. So the ceiling for quality is very high, and yet despite that, Nintendo were very frequently hitting some incredible new heights with 3DS games, and so this is one hell of a task to undertake. To make my life marginally easier, I'm discounting remakes or ports, because while I can easily sit here and wax lyrical over the merits of Ocarina of Time 3D, a lot of the praise would be reserved for the original, and is the remake amazing because the base game is also amazing? It gets real murky, so we're just gonna steer clear. Oh no, now there's only 210 games to choose from. Whatever will I do?
I'm feeling a bit of pressure with this video since no one's really making 3DS games anymore, and only very recently has the 3DS finished its life cycle, so the memories of this console are fresh, and therefore there's more pressure and a bit more stress behind making a video of the best 3DS games. So it's actually quite fortunate that this video is sponsored by Keeps and their FDA approved treatment for hair loss, something that may affect every 2 out of 3 guys before they turn the age of 35. Making a video about 3DS games is serious business!
Hey, here's a fun tangent. My bathroom leaked into my kitchen earlier this week, and I think the cause was too much hair in the drain creating a pressure build-up strong enough to push some pipes apart. So it's very possible that my hair is evacuating my head at a brisk pace, and I may well become indebted to today's sponsors Keeps, who have spent the last 3 years using their expertise to help a large list of clients with their hair loss. Their treatment comes in 3 different variants based on what type of hair loss you want to sort out, plus you can get everything shipped directly to your door so you don't have to wait for the world to sort itself out before you can sort your hair out. Keeps' treatment packages are already cheaper than their competitors, but with the deal they're running with me, you can save even more money. For a limited time offer, you can go to keeps.com/rabbid or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/rabbid to receive 50% off your first order. Stop hair loss now before it's too late.
Alright, okay, I suppose it's time to talk about some video games. But in 3D! Considering that the 3DS came out before Nintendo went off the deep end with the Wii U, you could make the argument that the 3DS came out at a time when Nintendo had some serious momentum behind their projects and a recent track record of pumping out hit after hit. This might have been at least somewhat of a contributing factor behind the decision to make a new Fire Emblem game, the first actual new non-remake re-release kind of thing for 8 years on this new console. You're striking while the iron is piping hot.
I don't want to say that creating a new Fire Emblem game for the 3DS was an easy decision, since historically low sales from previous titles would always make it a risk, but the 3DS was a fresh start for a lot of franchises, and clearly Intelligent Systems thought so too. Even the title, Fire Emblem Awakening, does little to hide how much of a refresh this game is for a franchise that lacked any clear direction. Like IS were furiously spamming F5 until the right idea smacked them in the side of the head. You know, the 3DS is like a handheld, but Nintendo put enough magic essence in it that it has pretty amazing graphics. Oh yeah, we can work with that. Fire Emblem Awakening comes in for a fair deal of flack for changing the trajectory of this franchise among fans who fell in love with classic Fire Emblem games and aren't too keen with where the series has gone in order to have more widespread appeal. And while I understand that, this game works so well for establishing a new entry point for newcomers while still staying relatively loyal to a formula on which Fire Emblem has built itself. I get it when longtime fans criticize Awakening for dumbing everything down and giving players the option to turn off permadeath for friendly units, but I don't think any of these changes are drastic enough to take away the essence of what Fire Emblem stands for. Sure, it's different, but at least the changes are made with the kind of confidence that can carry a franchise for years to come. I see where Fire Emblem is now, with 3 houses and with 8 characters in Smash Bros, and I doubt things would be anywhere near as good if Awakening wasn't such a hit. Hey, it's not like those older games disappeared in a puff of smoke as soon as Awakening hit store shelves. Can't say I'd turn back the clock on this one. Did you know there have been more than 30 Kirby games? Yeah, I know it might not sound like a lot when compared to the vast array of Mario games out there, but only a small handful of those 30 games could be considered spin-off games, leaving you with a couple dozen mainline titles spread across every Nintendo console from the Game Boy onwards. There's hardly a dud in here either, with this remarkable consistency reaching what I consider to be its peak in 2016 when HAL Labs planted their flag on top of Kirby Mountain with Planet Robobot. The game where Kirby spends a fair chunk of the game inside a robot suit, and yet somehow this game doesn't lose sight of where it comes from. I feel like if I was on the dev team I would have gone down the Robo-Kirby route with more focus and pushed classic Kirby to one side, but hey, that's why I'm talking about games instead of making them. It impresses me to no end that the developers put Kirby Planet Robobot together, because I remember how good Triple Deluxe was and how Labs would be perfectly justified by taking a rest and patting themselves on the back for a job well done, but nah, those guys are insane! Where do you find the drive to go round again 2 years later without copy and pasting large parts of the previous game? How do you make another Kirby game on the same system with the same hardware restrictions and have it feel completely different but also significantly better? And hey, I liked Triple Deluxe a lot, but Planet Robobot took the very best ideas and laced them with the freshness and that also wonderful robot suit that can scan enemies to get around the awkward question of, how do I eat things with my robot mouth? I'm not sure when the mech suit came into the dev team's mind for this game and if the Robobot armor came into the picture later in development to avoid comparisons with Triple Deluxe, but it's honestly incredible that the mech suit doesn't feel like a gimmick or that Planet Robobot is just the one where Kirby gets a robot suit. This franchise has maintained a very high standard of quality throughout its history, and yet Planet Robobot stands atop the pile with some of the best creativity that the series has ever seen. I don't know how they keep getting away with it.
I think the only reason why Kirby games aren't considered the best games on their respective systems is the lack of challenge, and the same can be said for Planet Robobot, but I didn't really go into that game expecting to die a bunch of times. I came there because it's Kirby, and I kinda know what I want to get. If you want a game that's gonna give you so much pushback, you play some Dark Souls. I play Kirby to have fun.
I feel like I need to hammer home the appeal of the 3DS for being powerful enough to run games that weren't really that far off home console quality. I know I'm not including it as part of the rankings, but if Ocarina of Time 3D came out on the Wii in roughly the same state, I don't think anyone would complain, so this is definitely a stage where Nintendo's portable hardware was starting to catch up to their home consoles. Something illustrated kinda perfectly by Capcom's choice to put Monster Hunter 4 on the 3DS in 2015. It's such an attractive proposition. You can take the vast details of a Monster Hunter game and translate it onto a handheld so that you can dip in and out of it whenever you please. It's the same appeal that brought Monster Hunter Rise to the Switch recently, except 6 years prior, and with the novelty that comes with experiencing Monster Hunter on a handheld, potentially in such a way that gets you invested in this franchise? I mean, that's what worked with most people. Perhaps the most impressive part of Monster Hunter 4 is that it doesn't let its status as a handheld Monster Hunter game hold it back. There's definitely some degrees of condensing going on here, but if anything, housing Monster Hunter on the 3DS forces Capcom to trim the fat and optimize this franchise. In a way, it reminds me a bit of Fire Emblem Awakening, albeit with less of a reboot feel to it, since this game acts as a brilliant stepping on point for new fans while allowing existing players a chance to play some Monster Hunter on the go. This is critically important since Monster Hunter has garnered a reputation for being a little challenging to get into at times, but the fourth game is the most approachable of the lot, allowing new players a window into this ridiculous collection of games about acrobatically kicking the crap out of giant beasties. This combination of factors garnered record sales for the franchise and allowed Capcom to springboard Monster Hunter into grander projects, and I don't think we'd have got a Monster Hunter World if it wasn't for this game laying some crucial groundwork. And hey, World continued to streamline the formula for new players, so clearly they were onto something here. So many hours that I'd never take back. I stopped playing Animal Crossing New Horizons a lot faster than I ever imagined I would. Maybe that says more about the circumstances under which many of us first played the game and how the nature of connecting with friends in a shared virtual setting helped to make some very dark times that little bit brighter. But now the world is healing and opening up to the extent where I can't give half an hour a day towards running errands. New Horizons isn't as irresistible as it once was. That's possibly just me, but when I think of Animal Crossing, my mind zips off in the direction of New Leaf on the 3DS, which had the benefit of impeccable timing to go with its immaculate eye for detail in a sense that this game is the culmination of everything that Animal Crossing has been working towards over the previous 11 years. And here I am enjoying it for letting me appreciate the company of a bunch of random animals. That's almost wholesome enough to make me forget all about the money I owe a fictional tanuki.
I recently made a tier list on Animal Crossing games. You can go watch it up here somewhere. Basically, I came to the conclusion that Animal Crossing games thrive the most when they're on handhelds and support a style of play that you can dip in and out of with short, frequent play sessions. Because that way, you don't burn yourself out by, beating the game in a week by duplicating money and paying off your mortgage. Because honestly, I don't want to live in a world where I'm debt-free.
Well, if you see Animal Crossing as a process that needs to be followed, that involves lots of fishing and picking lots of fruit in order to generate enough bells to pay off your house and buy all the nice things for your house, then you might over time feel underwhelmed. But this is a game series that is designed to last you months, if not years. This is where New Leaf comes in, because not only does it have the kind of relaxed pace that encourages you to take things nice and slow, but it has a million miles of content to back that up. You'd have no incentive at all to continue playing if there weren't special events waiting for you to experience on particular holidays where perhaps you hadn't played New Leaf for a while leading up to the Halloween event, but dipping in and out of Animal Crossing is the way to go. And I never quite felt like New Horizons lived up to that philosophy. I'm sure my New Leaf town is overgrown with weeds, and the villagers who haven't left are waiting to tell me how many months it's been since I popped in for a chat, but back when I was able to play this game every day, it was a glorious time. How strange that Nintendo have carved their own niche market for life simulators by giving you a bunch of animals to chat to. Well, you can't say it didn't work. If anything, this video highlights the incredible strength of the 3DS's library, because while I'm pleased with what we've discussed so far, there are so many games that I could have talked about instead without affecting the quality of the list too much. As far as I'm concerned though, there's only really one game that I can look back on with both fond memories at the time and a genuine love of how the game is all these years later. Time generally isn't kind to Zelda games, given how many people snap into a realization that Breath of the Wild has a lot of faults in it, and Skyward Sword is a video game sometimes, but I don't often see people talk shit about A Link Between Worlds. And that game's been out for 8 years, that's plenty of time to get nitpicky. I wish Nintendo would make another Zelda game like this. A Link Between Worlds already laid the groundwork for the open style of exploration of an overworld with a choice of objectives that would later become such a vital component of Breath of the Wild, but you have to remember that this incredibly fresh take on Zelda has been laid on top of the existing framework of A Link to the Past. So the work that's been done in the 90s on world layout only needs a few tweaks that take advantage of a few funky new mechanics and some more creative decisions to give the world some greater variety. Plus, the dev team were able to spend more time lacing in some outstanding new mechanics like the wall merging and the item rental system that completely changes the dynamics around item ownership and gives so much more value to rupees, and A Link Between Worlds is a fantastic game as a result of all of it. Previous handheld Zeldas always had small problems that stopped them from being in the same conversation as the big 3D titles, but much like the 3DS itself, A Link Between Worlds blurred the line out of existence, leaving behind a startling realization that this game was so exciting because it shook up the Zelda formulas so much. Maybe you need to start doing that a bit more often.
This is RabbidLuigi, and rolling the dice on Zelda's ironclad conventions had been a long time coming, even before A Link Between Worlds came out. But once people actually sat down and played the game, you could feel the really powerful sigh of relief come from so many people who were playing a Zelda game that had the courage to try a bit harder. The irony now is that after 2 Zelda games that have thrown convention out the window and done their own things, we're kind of after a little bit more of that in Breath of the Wild 2. Apparently, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Hi, just want to give a quick shout out to some of my top supporters on Patreon. We have Ramon Alberto, Jerome Kiryu, Fusion Warrior, Sarah Malion, Christopher Robinson, Joe Creamer, Scott Riker, Frank Guillong, I think, I'm so sorry, The Green Scorpion, and Devon Hutt. Thank you all for supporting what I do on YouTube, and if you want to join them, you can go to patreon.com/RabbidLuigi, where I post updates and behind the scenes stuff, and we generally have a really good time. Also, what topic would you like to see me cover next? Leave your suggestion in a comment on this video, because I'll be taking the best ideas and making a poll on my community tab, which you can then vote on to decide what the next video is about. I'll be announcing the winner of the poll over on my Twitter, so make sure you follow me so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.